City. A very good morning to you, Mr. Griffith. Thank you so much for joining us. And
My pleasure.
I could tell you, avid viewer, I could say, of TV6, at least the morning edition, because I know last week when we had a criminologist, Dr. Sheen Mohammed, on, he said you were, sending me little comments as per, the conversation.
Well, definitely. I always tune in.
Thank you very much for that. So let's talk. Maybe we could start just there. Let's talk about a little bit about what Miss Christopher would have said and your take on it. Do we really need to, tap into spirituality to deal with crime?
Well, it is something that commissioners before me, they would have used. Even if they're unable to get a tactical approach, strategic, having policies to peg back crime, what you do, you blame citizens, you blame society, you speak about the parents, you speak about the teachers, and then after you turn to God. It is always the easiest cop-out, literally. I am disappointed that criminologists will actually go that way. Nobody is questioning the fact that you should not have some type of spiritual intervention, but the fact of the matter is that if that is the case, well, then the Archbishop or someone should apply for the top cop position next time. This is not the fault of Ulla Christopher. Ulla Christopher did not impose herself on us. We can't be blaming Ulla Christopher. And I ask the country, we need to back off for a while. And instead of absorbing and putting pressure on Ulla Christopher, we should try our best to try to help her and try to support her. As I said, she didn't impose herself there. Ulla Christopher placed 19th out of 22 in 2018 by UK experts. That is when we had a proper procedure to ensure that experts would appoint and select commissioners of police based on the merit list. So she got about 52% to my 82. She placed 19th. What we have done now is we have removed that and allowed civilians with no law enforcement training to be the selective process for the merit list. So it is this service, police service commission, inclusive of two Maxines. One is a speaking consultant, one is an accountant. We also have a judge. So we have individuals with no law enforcement skill that took someone who placed 19th and then placed her first. Ulla Christopher just in 2021 got 20% less than the person who came first. So the blame should fall on this police service commission, not to criticize Ulla Christopher. They should all resign. But whilst we have Ulla Christopher, I would continue to support her, give her advice. Obviously, she may not have the tactical or strategic skill in understanding how to peg back criminals. Will always be willing to support her, but I ask the country, rather than demonize Ulla Christopher, she did not impose herself on us. And now what she's trying now is she will try all sort of avenues because she does not have that, as I said, ability. She's very inclined administratively. I've worked with her. So what I would ask the country, rather than pressure her and demonize her, it is the Police Service Commission who should resign for what they have done to this country. In the meantime, we should try our best to support her.
So let's talk about some of the targets that she mentioned, taking murders in particular down by June and substantially by December. I mean, you had full terms of office. And I mean, what does it take to do something like that? Was that a well thought of target, and especially a statement to make fresh into office?
Well, unfortunately, it was on a headline news with myself when I said, peg back, it is virtually impossible to do. Because when you inherit something, it is very difficult to take the baton and do an immediate turnaround. When I got the baton from Stephen Williams, crime was going up constantly, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. It took me a year to cause the transformation of the police service and the massive transformation in the reduction of crime. So McDonald Jacob, he took the baton and inherited the highest reduction in crime in history. And by some miracle, he was able to turn it into the highest spike in crime. So Ulla Christopher inherited from McDonald Jacobs the highest spike in crime in our country's history. So it was virtually impossible for her to turn this around in 3 months. Julie John is the only member of parliament who boasted and said, thumbs up, I support her, good job. And then I said, but what is the strategy? What is the crime plan that gave her this? And then we realized the crime plan was to turn to God. So it is going to be difficult. However, what is required here is for Ulla Christopher just to accept the fact that let us not politicize the Trinidad Police Service. There were 100 plus policies that we put in place that caused the transformation of the police service from 14% public trust and confidence in August 2018 to 55% on my departure. There was a reason why every single crime was reduced by over 30%. And all she has to do is to go back and put the switch back on put it back in the plug of all the things, the IT, the technology, the units, the intelligence gathering, all of the different systems that were there that they have removed and shut down and dismantled, which is the typical political game. When there's a change in political parties or units or whatever, you shut down everything because it will make that individual look good. This is not about Gary Griffith. There were things that were there from SORT, the social media monitoring, the IT systems, the body cameras, the Commissioner's Command Center, the Operation Command Center, all of the different unit systems, policies, procedures we put. We put systems to measure performance, make police officers accountable, proper management, proper leadership. They've all been unplugged. All she has to do is to go back, reignite it, and you will see a turnaround.
Now, of course, another statement she made was that, the TTPS under her watch will be free of political interference. You sat in that seat. You've talked a little bit about instances where you may have faced some level of suasion or the other. What does it take from the top cop to ensure that doesn't happen, that there is not political interference? I mean, in the context of what we're seeing now with the issue with the DPP, in the context of the Police Service Commission, the merit list and all of that.
Well, she's going to lose her job because of her statement. That is what this government, they do. The DPP situation is not coincidental. You saw it with myself. This is one of the few countries in the world where politicians will deliberately try to interfere, intimidate, and influence a commissioner of police. A government will take 45 million TT, give it to a commissioner and say, you must use this money solely to hire top attorneys to arrest political opponents. And then when the commissioner will ask for just a mere 100,000 TT to get an engineer to complete his investigation on AV drilling, he's chased like a dog. And we allow this. So we realize what is going on here. If we have what is known in this country as democratic dictatorship, one man alone has the sole process to select the president of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, virtually the Chief Justice, Commissioner of Police, Chief of Defense Staff, and indirectly the Police Service Commission. This cannot continue. This is going to lead to virtual dictatorship in the country. And Ulla Christopher, by her making that comment, it is good. If she's worth her salt and do what I did, I stood firm when it is individuals who are trying to tell me to arrest individuals in their home during a period of public health regulation because the head of the country did not understand the law. And then, strange enough, one of his own MPs, Keith Scotland, recently had defeated his own government by showing that in that public health regulation, you could not arrest persons in private property. So Ulla Christopher needs to stand firm. She is going to be pressured. She's going to be harassed because certain politicians try to hire individuals in strategic positions to control them. I stood firm because I remembered my oath in office. It is hoped that Ulla Christopher does the same.
So there's a close enough relationship with the TTPS and the DPP as it relates to investigations. TTPS must do the investigation, pass on that file to the DPP. Given the criticism of the DPP and the Prime Minister suggesting that there is a deep failing in the delivery of justice and police action, how long do you think it'll take, for the TTPS as well to come under fire?
Well, it will be based on if Ulla Christopher is going to sing for a supper, if she's going to be directed and manipulated and or attempts to, as happened with myself. And so it remains to be seen. There's going to be a lot of pressure on her. We have situations now where phones are being intercepted of political opponents of this government. We are seeing now they're using the financial institutions to dig up. And if it is that this government spends more time in trying to just serve the country, you cannot love the country, but you hate half of the country. And that is what is happening now. The TTPS must stand as an independent body. I recall during the COVID period, 23 police chiefs in the United States attacked the most powerful man on the planet by telling him, shut up, because he was affecting the security of the state or the cities that these police chiefs work in. That is the difference with a developed country. So this is not and should not be a banana republic, where you feel that a prime minister must have that authority. The comments being made about the DPP, what the prime minister has done yesterday, you would have seen it in that press conference. You hold a post-cabinet meeting to attack the media, to attack the opposition, to speak about if Basil Pandey drank before they met, and then have the audacity to say, this is my meeting, this is my conference, you must work with me. We are allowing this to happen, and this is a runaway horse. We must put control on it. He has used his pit bull in AG to attack the DPP. The audacity of Keith Rowley to feel that he can fool and manipulate the country by saying that there's not an attack on the DPP. Our Attorney General decided to be a professor or a headmaster to question the status and the performance of the DPP by stating that he's underperforming. And this was a statement by an AG who I just defeated comprehensively in a court case when the government wanted to take the audit list to Parliament. And I beat Keith Rowley left, right, and center. The court said you cannot go to Parliament. You had no right to hire civilians. You had no right to investigate. The commissioner had no right to allow it to happen. And this is what, unfortunately, the TTPS must not in any way be manipulated by any government.
So you have said, as it relates to the meritless matter, you have said that it's not over, and you've promised a commission of inquiry in 2025. Could you elaborate a bit more on that? How do you intend to have this all happen?
Well, sure. McDonald Jacob, he should be investigated immediately by the PCA and the Police Service Commission because he refused to investigate something that was clear-cut. He had the audacity to state that you could not investigate the merit list because no one made a report to the police. No one made a report to Emailgate, McDonald Jacob, and you went ahead. No one made a report about firearms in the police service, but you put 50 plus police officers to investigate legal firearms when almost 100% of murders by firearms or by illegal firearms, and you did not hire one person, assign one police officer. So what we found is the minutes of that Police Service Commission showed emphatically that at no time did the Police Service Commission withdraw the merit list. The 3 of the 4 individuals now should, you do a commission of inquiry, you put the 4 previous Police Service Commission members on the stand. Did you withdraw the merit list? 3 of the 4 would very well say, no, they did not, which means that it was never withdrawn by the Police Service Commission. And if one person decided to use the letterhead, sign it, it meant that she broke the law. And if she broke the law, we will then ask her, were you influenced, intimidated, harassed by any politician to cause you to break the law? Because you suspended a police commissioner without approval by the Service Commission. You withdrew the merit list without the approval. Up to now, not one citizen in this country has asked, why did all the members of the Police Service Commission resign? They resigned in disgust because of the actions of one member of that Police Service Commission. That person should have been investigated and arrested. And if she was intimidated by anyone, that individual too should be arrested for misbehavior, sedition, and treason.
Now, Mr. Griffith, some may say that it's a case of sour grapes.
Well, again, the fact of the matter, what is the sour grapes? I performed, when you look at my track record, it was 89% of the country wanted me to return. It was the highest public trust and confidence in the police service in our country's history. It was the highest reduction in crime. What is there about sour grapes? I only reapplied. I had my 3-year tour of duty. I performed. I served my country well. I rode out. It was the Prime Minister who changed the law and asked me to return. It was the country who asked me to return. So how can that be sour grapes? I have done what I had to do. The Prime Minister changed the law in May 2021 to have me act as Commissioner of Police. I didn't ask to act. I didn't want to. So this was based on the Prime Minister and the country asking me to return. So the question of trying to compare to that, it is mind-boggling, because this was based on the request of the Prime Minister and the country asking me to return. I topped the merit list. How could you top a merit list with 94%, and then a Prime Minister will use the President's house as a coffee shop to try to meet with someone, and then you'll say that is sour grapes? Someone came first, topped the merit list, and then there's intimidation and harassment. A president refused to adhere to the law by doing her job, and she was a judge. So, and a final point quickly on this is the hypocrisy of Keith Rowley when he says that the special branch, when they submit reports, it is intelligence and not evidence. So you could ignore if they speak about you, one of your ministers. You could ignore if they speak about securing a building. But if a citizen gives you a report that has no credibility, he does not hold any position, you take that and use that as an avenue to meet the head of the Police Service Commission to try to influence a process. That is what the focus should be on.
So let me ask you, I mean, I did read that you said that President Kangaloo has a very refreshing tone, that she is very passionate and more inspirational and respectful to citizens. as she saves on her first day and so on. What do you suspect may have happened? Or, I mean, we're just suspecting, we're just suggesting what may have happened had she been in office and had she been in Paula May Weeks's position as it relates to the merit list.
Well, we don't know. It remains to be seen. I am back in politics. If you recall me as the Minister of National Security, I was the ultimate statesman. And there's a difference with being a commissioner of police where you have to go hard to fight crime and peg back criminals. As a politician, you must be humble. You must be willing to serve people. You must respect individuals, in total contrast to what we saw in that post-cabinet press conference yesterday. And you give people the opportunity. What we would have seen by Paula May Weeks, you're a judge and you broke the law. There were two aspects of the law she did not do. She refused to. She refused to forward the acting merit list to Parliament, and it's because of that that Anand Ramlogan took it to court, and rightfully he won, because the law stated that she was supposed to submit it. She refused. When Anand Ramlogan took it to court, she could have still sent it. She did. So this was deliberate involvement by a president not to adhere to the law. And then you had the substantive merit list, where again, she refused and she handed it back. And I don't know if she want to get catabol, but you don't go and hand, but there's nothing in the law that allows you to hand back a merit list. And you are a judge. And all you have done in your 5 years is to pontificate, to criticize, to demonize, to discredit, and to attack. What I saw in this new president, she brings hope, she brings belief, she brings trust, and all she's saying is, give me a chance. And I should think and hope that any citizen in this country, regardless of political affiliation, when someone gets ascendancy into office, give them that opportunity. Many people said she's going to be worse than Paula May Weeks. She's very political. It remains to be seen. I, as a citizen of this country, as a political leader, I am not here to divide. I'm here to unite. I'm here to build hope, confidence, trust in the country. And you can't do that by just automatically demonizing someone because of the party card that they had previously.
Now, I've also read that you've called the Chief of Defense Staff's comment at the JSC totally inaccurate. And he would have said that patrols with police is not part of the Defense Forces training. As a former soldier, what is your take on this?
Well, it is 100% correct. It is unfortunate. Darrell Daniel and I, we joined the Defense Force at the same time. He went off to Dartmouth, I went off to the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst. So we have that type of training in probably the best academies in the world. You come back home and you know your Chief of Defense Staff. He must know that the role and function of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force is not just to support us from external aggression, but it is also as an aid to civil power and also to support local law enforcement. That is the role and function of the Defense Force. So for you to go in a JSC and say we are not trained to adhere to our role and function, that is a damning statement about the Defense Force. Thankfully, he is 100% incorrect. There's a primary role and function, yes, which is what we would have seen in the attempted coup. I was the youngest officer at that time. But there's also a role and function that ensures that we are properly trained as military officers in the Army, that being the rank of lieutenant and above. We are trained to understand, it is initially known as counter-revolutionary warfare, but we are trained to understand how to train ourselves for local law enforcement. When I was at Sandhurst, we were preparing and training against the IRA, but it also has us trained to work and complement local internal law enforcement to deal with roadblocks, cordon and search, vehicle checkpoints, mobile patrols, foot patrols, crowd control, riots. All of these things the Army is trained to do, and they have done it for decades under the IATF. We have seen it. In 2011, Brigadier John Sandy, as the Minister of National Security, utilized the Army in full force during the SOE. Unfortunately, this National Security Council, they do not understand the role and function of the Defense Force. During the last SOE, I was forced to single-handedly lead our law enforcement to ensure that Trinidad and Tobago will be safe and secure during the SOE. And this government did not even give the police service a thank you for what they did, even though we lost 30 men by performing. What they decided to do was give national awards to 4 people who every single week will tell people, keep your mask on, make sure your social gather, and that is what they did. One might be a candidate for the government very soon. However, what it is we need to do is to look at what it is that is happening in this country. We have put so much emphasis on the, as I said, the hatred that we have put, it has to stop. The fact of the matter is that the Defense Force They are properly trained to understand how to do these things. They've done it for years. When we had 150 men entering Port of Spain, I had to again use the police to use that type of tactics to ensure that the country was not destroyed. So unfortunately, the Chief of Defense Staff is totally incorrect, and it is hoped that the National Security Council utilize those 500 men and women who want to serve the country. They want to support the police, and it can play a very big part to reduce crime.
So, Mr. Griffith, as we close, tell us a little bit about your political party. What's happening? Are you gaining momentum? One, and two, is there really a room for a third party?
There will always be a room. It started in 1981 under the UNR. They got 91,000 votes. It then went 10 years later to the NAR on their own 127,000. It then went to 2007, the Congress of the People with 147,000. It builds. The momentum continues to build. And it's nothing against the PNM or the UNC. I ask the country, let us stop the hate. Let us stop the bitterness. This PNM till a dead or born a UNC, that is fine. But there would be 150 to 200,000 people who believe that, listen, there is room for a third option, and it shouldn't be third as in place in bronze, but it is an opportunity. There's no need to hate. If it is that I can find an avenue to ensure that those individuals have some type of room for us to be in government or to win government, I intend to do so. I intend to represent that third constituency and to ensure that there is good governance. I intend to try to unite the country, to build the country, and because I've seen for far too long too much division and hatred specifically to win an election. And all I ask this country is just one word: believe. Believe that we can transform the country. The same way I was able to transform the police service, I assure you I will transform every arm of the public sector.
But of course, Mr. Griffith, a lot of people say that political party doesn't center around one individual, and the public is closely watching, those members of your team, if they are high profile, if they are well known, what sort of work they've done on the ground, and so on.
Well, it happens. I mean, it happens. You remember 2010. 2010, there was a powerful team, but it was known as Kamala Mania. So regardless, I agree with you. I hear you. But again, when it is, I remember in 2007 when I went up for the COP, people said they were still voting for Eric Williams. So leadership has a very big part to play in it. I assure you that this leader, I do not want yes people around me. I want to ensure I have the best minds, the best persons available to ensure we have the best policies, the best plans, and have the political will to transform Trinidad and Tobago. And that will be seen. We actually started in St. Joseph. I'll be hitting the ground in St. Joseph, and we would make St. Joseph and Trinidad and Tobago safe again.
Gary Griffith, of course, former police commissioner, former national security minister. I'm just trying to remember all of your accolades, and of course now political leader of the NTA. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us.
My pleasure.